Well, in case you've been living under a rock and didn't hear, Microsoft has purchased Zenimax, which is the owner of Bethesda. I repeat, Zenimax is now owned by Microsoft, which means Bethesda is owned by Microsoft, which means all the games published by Bethesda are now owned by Microsoft. This is likely the largest news in the gaming industry this year, even with 2 console launches, which is always big for the industry. I think this is probably the biggest news we've heard in a very, very long time, and it's really hard to wrap your head around what that means. First, let's take a look at what that means title-wise. Xbox now owns Dishonored, they own Wolfenstein, they own Fallout, they own Elder Scrolls. So that means that there is a very high chance that the future titles of these games will be Microsoft Store on PC and Xbox only. We're being told that these are going to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. I imagine there's going to be some backlash if these titles are not on PlayStation 5. I myself am a bit curious how they're going to handle that debacle, but it definitely leads to a lot of speculation on what exactly are they going to do. Probably adding even more confusion to this is the fact that the games Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, which are being published by Bethesda, are actually PlayStation 5 exclusives. So now you have a company that's owned by Microsoft and Xbox that's publishing PlayStation 5 exclusives. We are being told that that is going to remain the case, that these titles will remain PlayStation 5 exclusives, at least for the time being. It's possible that these are going to be timed exclusives and will eventually make it over to the Xbox and PC platforms. What does this mean for gamers, and what does this mean for RPG gamers? The fact that Microsoft now owns Bethesda. Well, I mean, you have to look at why they might have purchased Bethesda in the first place. I don't think it's a big secret in the gaming industry, gaming community, that Bethesda has not been on the top of their game for some time now. With their recent failings of Fallout 76, Rage 2 didn't perform particularly well, and they have not released a really good selling game or really popular game in a very long time. However, they are still working on a couple projects that have piqued a lot of people's interest. Obviously, Elder Scrolls, everyone's still holding their breath to see how this is going to do. And the sci-fi RPG Starfield, we haven't seen much of either of these 2 games. It makes me wonder if Bethesda just didn't have a lot of cash on hand because of the fact that they've been in these games have been in development for so long now at this point that they needed an influx of cash, and Microsoft decided to swing in, and that's what they decided to go with. It's really hard to say, not having a lot of knowledge behind closed doors about this thing. Very few people do. But it's probably a really good move on Xbox and Microsoft's part because they've suffered, from not having very strong exclusives in the past, and this will probably be very, very good for them in the future. That is, of course, if Bethesda can right the ship and, bang out some hits with Elder Scrolls and Starfield. That's, of course, has to happen for this to be a good payoff for them. But, I think a lot of people are going to buy those games hoping that they're good. Not everyone, obviously. But, there is some faith there that Bethesda knows how to make good games. They have a track record of making good games. They're obviously not as big as they are for no reason. So this could potentially pay off very, very well for Microsoft. Now, with exclusives being a case-by-case basis, as announced by Phil Spencer of Microsoft, one has to wonder, how serious is this on a case-by-case basis? I mean, I gotta think that it wouldn't be in their best interest to make something as large as Elder Scrolls a console exclusive. I could see maybe Starfield happening in order to help push Xbox sales because that game's been so hyped and it's supposed to be massive and is not established on other consoles. But at this point, I think everyone expects something like Elder Scrolls to make it on all platforms. So I can't really see this being an exclusive. If I had to bet money, I would bet that the Elder Scrolls is going to be on PS5 as well. But Starfield, I'm not quite so sure about. Another side of this that's particularly interesting is now Xbox owns Obsidian and they own Bethesda. So they now own Obsidian and they own the Fallout franchise. One has to wonder if we might see a future Fallout game from Obsidian, or if, some sort of collaboration between Bethesda and Obsidian on a Fallout project, which would be fantastic. Fallout New Vegas, as you know, was made by Obsidian. That was probably my favorite first-person Fallout game that was made. It's no secret I'm a fan of the original Fallout games, and I really liked Wasteland 3 because it felt like what I really wanted from Fallout 3 back in the day. But Fallout New Vegas to me was the closest thing to that original Fallout experience in first-person form. So one really has to wonder if there might be some collaboration or if they might use Obsidian to create another title like this. It could be amazing if they do. Another something particularly interesting when you start looking about Game Pass is that Bethesda is going to be adding their games to Game Pass which adds significant value to the Xbox Game Pass, which was already good, and it's just getting better and better with the announcement of the EA trial on there, and now Bethesda games being on there. So if you own Xbox and you have Game Pass, you're just getting more and more value for your money. I actually wouldn't be surprised if the cost of Game Pass didn't go up in the near future because they're adding so much value here. But that's got to be good news for you if you're a Game Pass fan or you use Game Pass. I mean, these are going to be games that, I think a lot of Bethesda games for me, like Dishonored or maybe Wolfenstein in the past, have been games that I really wanted to play, but I didn't want to pay full price for. And now you're going to get these games, at a really discounted rate with that Game Pass. We've been talking about industry consolidation for a long time. I keep thinking that the industry is flooded with too many games and the consumers just cannot buy that many games, particularly now with the cost being announced for PlayStation 5 with the price of games going up. People are going to be more and more selective about what they buy. I think reviews and things like this, first impressions, seeing games on stream before people buy is going to become more and more important as there's just too many games. A great example is Hades. Recently, we've been playing this on stream. I don't know if you've caught it, but this is a game that completely flew under our radar just because there are so many games to cover. We didn't even catch it, which is just a faux pas on our part. But there's so many games, and we've always predicted that an industry consolidation is coming, and maybe this is the beginning of it. I don't know if it's very well known, but there are some large publishers out there, notably like Koch Media that owns THQ Nordic and Deep Silver. If you go to their booths at Gamescom, they have 50 games under these, publishers. So there are actually, maybe half a dozen large publishers in the gaming industry that, own most of the studios. Not every studio, obviously, but a large portion of them. So it doesn't matter, what game sells well or what game doesn't sell well. I'm sure they hope all of them do. You're usually buying it from the same company anyway. So now this is even further consolidation. We're going all the way back to Microsoft, who now owns the publishers. I'm starting to wonder if we're going to see more and more of this in the future. Maybe not next year, but what about the year after or the year after that? What are you guys' thoughts? Am I crazy here? Is there a consolidation in the industry finally occurring? What do you guys think about Microsoft buying Bethesda and Zenimax? Is this bad for you? Are you worried you're not going to see your games on the platform of your choice? Or do you think this is somehow good for the industry and maybe this will give Bethesda the kick in the pants they need in order to make better titles?